and then I will be doing a presentation which will be an overview of the Harvard Graduate School Education's admissions process. And then we'll hear from some Lemann fellows and do some question and answer. We will have plenty of time for people to get their questions answered at the end of the session. So if you want to start at the Lemann Foundation with your brief presentation, and then I can talk about admissions for a while.
Sure, perfect. We'll get started. We're going to try to share with you our presentation. And I'm going to be doing this part in Portuguese.
Great.
All right. Boa noite. Obrigada por virem. Então, essa é a sessão informativa que vai ser parte em português, parte em inglês, sobre a Harvard Graduate School of Education e sobre o Lemann Fellowship, que é o programa de bolsas da Fundação Lemann. Eu vou começar falando um pouco sobre o que é o programa de bolsas do Lemann Fellowship e todas as bolsas que nós oferecemos em diferentes universidades parceiras. E depois nós vamos ter o pessoal de admissions da Harvard Graduate School of Education falando um pouco sobre o processo de admissions e sobre as oportunidades na escola. E antes das perguntas, a gente vai ter também a Isabel, que é Lemann Fellow e também estudou na Harvard Graduate School of Education, que vai contar um pouco para vocês sobre a experiência dela na escola, de admissions e também como Lemann Fellow. No fim, a gente abre para perguntas. Bom, começando a falar um pouquinho, então, vou falar bem brevemente sobre o que é o programa de bolsas da Fundação Lemann. E antes de contar sobre o programa, eu vou contar um pouco sobre quem somos nós, quem é a Fundação Lemann. Alguém já veio para uma sessão informativa antes? Aqui? Tá bom. Então, não vou ser repetitiva, somente para você. Bom, a Fundação Lemann, então, é uma fundação familiar, fundada em 2002 pelo empresário brasileiro Jorge Paulo Lemann. E a nossa missão tem dois pilares principais. O primeiro é ajudar a melhorar a qualidade da educação no Brasil. Então, a gente tem projetos em áreas de inovação, em políticas educacionais, e também tentando ajudar a melhorar a gestão da educação. Então, sugiro a todos que deem uma olhada mais no nosso site. Eu não vou me alongar explicando tudo de super interessante que a Fundação Lemann faz, mas esse é um pilar muito importante da nossa missão. E o segundo é ajudar a acelerar transformações sociais no Brasil, por meio do fortalecimento de uma rede de líderes, que é o que a gente vai focar hoje, que é a nossa área de talentos, onde estão as bolsas Lemann Fellowship. Então, por meio do apoio a pessoas talentosas, ajudar a acelerar transformações sociais no Brasil. Tá compartilhando? Ok, então, qual é o objetivo desse programa, então, é ajudar a acelerar transformações sociais no Brasil. A gente tem como meta, até 2018, ter uma rede de 500 líderes. Hoje são 205 Lemann Fellows que fazem parte da rede. E o nosso objetivo com isso, oferecendo não só as bolsas de estudo, mas também conectando essas pessoas numa rede, para que elas se conheçam e potencializem suas ações, e dando apoio ao desenvolvimento de carreira, para que elas atinjam, de fato, todo o seu potencial. O nosso objetivo é realmente acelerar essas transformações sociais no Brasil por meio de pessoas que vão ser líderes realmente dessas transformações. Nós temos 7 universidades parceiras, que são Harvard, Stanford, Columbia, UCLA, Illinois, Yale e Oxford, que entrou recentemente, que é uma que não é nos Estados Unidos. Pode passar. Quais são os perfis? Não são quaisquer programas de pós-graduação que são apoiados por bolsas Lemann nessas universidades. São algumas áreas específicas mais relacionadas à transformação social. Então, nós temos bolsas nas áreas de educação, com o mestrado de Harvard, o mestrado, o doutorado e o Joint Degree de MBA mais MA em educação na Universidade de Stanford, onde a gente tem um centro Lemann lá, então tem 4 professores dedicados a pesquisar Brasil na Escola de Educação de Stanford. A gente também tem o mestrado do Teachers College de Columbia, mestrado de UCLA. Na área de gestão pública também é bem importante, nós temos mestrados nas universidades de Harvard, Columbia, Oxford e UCLA. E também na área de saúde pública em Harvard, Columbia e UCLA. A gente ainda tem apoio por bolsas em outras áreas relacionadas ao Brasil, então são programas de doutorado em Illinois e em Harvard, desde que sejam projetos relacionados ao Brasil. Também nas áreas mais recentemente que entraram de arquitetura e urbanismo em Columbia e UCLA, jornalismo no mestrado de Columbia, também social work, o trabalho social no mestrado de Columbia, e de liderança, que é um programa de imersão de 4 meses para pessoas que já estão transformando socialmente. Os brasileiros aceitos no programa de Yale, chamado Yale World Fellows, também recebem bolsas do Lemann Fellowship. Então, essa rede é composta por pessoas que estudaram nessas universidades, nesse tipo de programas, conectadas entre si no propósito comum de ajudar a melhorar o Brasil. Uma coisa importante mencionar é como funciona o programa e é o fato de que não é a Fundação Lemann, mas sim as próprias universidades que selecionam. Então, para você se tornar um Lemann Fellow, é preciso você ser admitido tanto no programa que você escolheu, então você ser admitido naquela escola, naquele programa de mestrado e doutorado, e também a admissão na Bolsa Lemann, que também é feita pela universidade, são 2 processos separados, que às vezes acontecem ao mesmo tempo, às vezes um depois do outro. Hi.
Are you able to hear me still?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if I can get in touch with them and see if I can
Can you see our presentation?
get their audio working.
Acho que eles perderam o áudio.
Oh, here we go. There you are.
So, when did you lose us? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me well? When did you lose us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. And can you see the presentation too?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Então, como eu estava dizendo, é preciso ter admissão nos 2 processos, tanto para a escola quanto para as bolsas Lemann, e ambos os processos são gerenciados totalmente pelas universidades. Por isso, a gente sempre aconselha a entrar em contato direto com o pessoal de admissions das universidades, que é uma oportunidade que nós vamos ter hoje, para verificar tudo em relação ao processo, prazos e todos os detalhes, que é tudo diretamente com eles. Sobre benefícios e compromissos, os benefícios, além da bolsa que varia em cada escola, nós temos também essa inserção na rede de contatos e o apoio ao desenvolvimento de carreira. Tem encontros anuais dos Lemann Fellows, existe um evento chamado Roadshow, que nós fazemos com os Lemann Fellows no semestre em que eles vão se formar e voltar para o Brasil, onde a gente se reconecta com a realidade brasileira. Então, tem uma imersão itinerante, como nós chamamos, passando por São Paulo, Brasília, Rio de Janeiro, falando com líderes influentes em todos os setores, para se reconectar com a realidade brasileira, nos seus desafios e nas suas oportunidades, para que ele ajude a decidir onde que eles vão ter impacto social. E os compromissos em contrapartida são, é claro, o primeiro e mais importante, de fato, utilizar o conhecimento, a experiência adquiridos em prol da transformação social do Brasil, contribuir com o fortalecimento da rede, auxiliando na divulgação do programa, reportar para a Fundação Lemann uma vez ao ano o que você fez nesse ano que passou. Essa é uma maneira da gente conseguir identificar histórias que a gente quer contar. Então, tem um livrinho cinza que alguns de vocês pegaram já, que tem a história de 10 Lemann Fellows de alto impacto, que conta um pouco do que eles já realizaram, já estão realizando de impacto social no Brasil. Então, é por meio desses relatos que a gente todo ano faz esse reconhecimento, e mais do que isso, tenta multiplicar essas histórias para inspirar mais pessoas. Publicar o perfil no site do programa. Então, se vocês entrarem no site do Lemann Fellowship, vocês vão encontrar ali uma mini bio de todos os Lemann Fellows, até para poder conectar com eles. Alguns deles disponibilizam seus e-mails lá e estão dispostos a orientar candidatos e pessoas interessadas em se tornarem Lemann Fellows também. E, por fim, a gente pede para participar de, no mínimo, um evento da rede por ano, que é mais uma maneira de usufruir dos benefícios do que qualquer outra coisa. E isso tudo são contrapartidas muito importantes para a gente, ao contrário de muitos programas de bolsas, não pede reembolso do valor da bolsa. O mais importante para a gente é que, de fato, essas pessoas realizem seu potencial e ajudem a transformar o Brasil. É isso, brevemente, sobre o programa Lemann Fellowship. A gente pode responder também perguntas no final sobre os demais benefícios do programa e como ele funciona. Vamos agora falar um pouco sobre admissions na Harvard Graduate School of Education. Laura?
Yeah.
The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Wonderful. So first, again, thank you all so much for being here. It's so great to see some of you and to have some of you join virtually. We are so excited to have a presence in Brazil. I wish that I could be there in person. It would be much warmer and more beautiful, I'm sure, than we are having right now in Boston. But thank you all for being here. So I think for this piece of the presentation, I'm going to not use the video, but just use the presentation mode. If you are having any trouble hearing me, please just let me know in the chat, and I can try to manage any technical issues that we're having. So let me switch over to my presentation now. Just give me 1 second. Okay. So I'm going to give a very general overview of HGSE admissions. And something that you'll see is that we really want this to be the beginning of the conversation. So if you are interested in the Harvard Graduate School of Education, we really hope that you stay in touch with us. And so I'll name a number of ways that you can ask us questions or various resources that we have here at HGSE for you to take advantage of if this is something that interests you. So today, just briefly, I'll be going over all of our degree programs. So you'll see that we have 15 different programs. 2 are doctoral, and 13 of those are master's programs. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk a bit about the HGSE community and who studies here. And then I'll give some advice for applicants. So just some application tips, as well as deadlines, and a little bit about financial aid. Again, we will have plenty of time for question and answer at the end. And we will be taking questions both from people who are in person, as well as people who are joining virtually. Okay, so to start, our degree programs. I mentioned that we have 15 different programs. And so to sort of start thinking about the programs, we recommend that you think about our core academic strengths. So these are just 3 areas where we feel like we are particularly strong and that our faculty as well as our resources run really deep in these areas. I want to point out that you might be interested in a program that incorporates more than one of these areas, or you could be interested in one that even encapsulates all 3. Something else I want to mention is that some programs have the word leadership or leader in their title, but all of our programs here at Harvard, and especially at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, really aim to prepare leaders in the field of education. So regardless of whether or not leadership is in the title, we do hope that all graduates of our programs go on to be leaders in education. So first I'll talk just quickly about learning and development, and you'll see a number of the programs that we have listed here fall under this large category of learning and development. And this is looking at things like human cognition, development, and curriculum, and looking at how they can be used to strengthen teaching and learning. So this is really looking at how learning and teaching impact lifelong development, from early childhood through adulthood. And here you'll see that a number of our programs fall into this category. Next, I'm going to talk about leadership and organization. So again, you'll see a number of programs that are listed specifically under leadership and organization. This is what Harvard is all about. Harvard is all about preparing leaders. And as I mentioned, here at HGSE, we do it in the context of education. And so this is looking at things like instructional leadership, principal leadership, higher education. It may be even professional development for teachers, or something like nonprofit management. And our third core area is policy analysis. And so this is really taking a deeper dive and looking at the consequences of federal, state, and local policy on student learning and educational equity. And here at HGSE, we do that both in the domestic context as well as an international context. And as we'll talk about later, we do have a decent amount of international students on campus contributing to that conversation about policy worldwide. Next, I'm going to move on to talk about our degree programs in particular. So as I mentioned, we have a number for you to choose from. And so it's really important to think about first what you want to do while you're at HGSE and what you want to do after you leave HGSE. And so if you're interested in becoming someone who will, participate in our PhD program, this is our research-based doctoral program. This is training students to become academics or researchers. They might be interested in making policy. They want to become leaders who will improve education through rigorous scholarship. So this is a new program for us. It is the first year we've enrolled PhD in education students this year. We're really excited about it. It's an inter-faculty program that's offered with the Harvard Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. And we anticipate that it will be a 5 to 6 year program that includes 2 years of coursework and then comprehensive exams. And that's followed by a dissertation exploring your own research. The PhD has 3 different concentrations. You'll see them listed here. In order to get a real sense of the concentrations, I recommend that you explore our website and also that you explore which faculty members are associated with each of these concentrations. The concentrations are left very broad because we want you to come in with specific ideas and find that you have a place within one of these 3 concentrations. You might have a very specific research interest or research question, and because these are pretty large categories, you will be able to find a home here. What I would recommend if you're deciding between more than one concentration is to look at the faculty associated with each, because you will be assigned a faculty advisor based on your concentration. Next, I want to talk just very briefly about the Doctor of Education Leadership. This is a 3-year practice-based doctorate, and we get a number of questions about whether or not this program is open to international students. So I'll explain. This is a program that is preparing people to become leaders in the American pre-K through 12 education system. So you're really going to be studying very intensely for 3 years how education is working here in the US and how we can change it. And so this program is open to international students, but the biggest difference between this and our other programs is that the goal is for you to continue working here in the US and to be changing education here in America. And so it's just a bit different because sometimes international students come in wanting to learn about our education system so they can return to their country and kind of transform their country's own system. This is not intended for that. This is really meant for people who want to transform the education system here in the US. So as I mentioned, we have 13 different master's programs, and these are really for people who are interested in, doing a deeper dive into a specific area of education. So maybe you have worked in education before, maybe you have never worked in education, maybe you are changing your career within education, whatever it may be. We have 13 different master's programs. You'll see them all listed here. And this is a really great opportunity for you to take advantage of this and specifically look into what your concentration area is doing in the field of education. Something that I recommend if you are thinking of 1 program or 2 programs, you aren't sure what is best for you, is to look at the required courses. So every program has a certain number of courses that are required when you are in the program. And it's really important to look at those because you have a lot of flexibility outside of your required courses. There's always opportunities to take electives, and you also have a lot of flexibility in the coursework that you do, so the projects that you do, the papers that you do. But it's important to look first at the required courses. And again, you really want to evaluate, I'm starting at point A, and I have a goal, and I want to get to point B. So are those required courses going to help you get from point A to point B and achieve your goal? That's really important to look at. When you're thinking also about why you want to come to HGSE, it's important to think about all of these different things. What do you want to get out of your time here? Do you need to gain certain skills? Are you leading a profession and you said, I really want to move into this other job and I need these skills? Is it something like the frameworks? Are you new to education and you want to learn about the language of education? Here we have another set of things to think about. Are you interested in particular faculty members here? Are you interested in particular courses? Do you want to participate in extracurriculars outside of the classroom? These are all really important to keep in mind as you are exploring the school and thinking of applying. So something that I didn't mention yet was our field experience and internship program. So for many of our programs, these are not required components, but approximately 65% of our master's students do take part in either a field experience or internship program. So field experience is what we call it when you take an internship for credit. And so that's something that would be available to you to sign up for a class here on campus where you discuss your internship, and it's a bit less work intensive. This is an opportunity to really explore a new field of education if you've never tried it out before, and for you to see if that's something you might want to pursue professionally. And so our Career Services Office is a really wonderful place for you to find these opportunities, and you would apply in the fall when you're coming in if you would like to participate in an internship. Here you'll see that a number of our programs offer licensure. And so if you are interested in any of these programs, I urge you to see the website because they do have they have more structured required courses. And so if you are, for instance, looking to become a school principal through our school leadership program, you would have a much more structured time while you're here than someone who is in a non-licensure program. So that's important to look at too if you're considering maybe gaining licensure and a master's at the same time. This is a poster that talks a bit, that is really speaking to our extracurriculars here on campus. And this is an example of our Ask With forums. So these are opportunities where we bring to campus some really wonderful current thought leaders in the field of education who are able to share what they feel is going on in the world of education, what issues, what are ways that they are trying to solve the problems of education. It's a great opportunity for students as well as the general public to engage with people here on campus. I also wanted to mention entrepreneurship and innovation, which is a growing part of the conversation here at HGSE. And so this is something that people take part in both inside the classroom via projects, and people are always pushed to innovate here at HGSE. And also outside of the classroom. So you'll see a photo of the Harvard Innovation Lab, which is something we have just down the road and which is created essentially just for people who are looking to be innovators and to create new things while they are here. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to talk briefly about community and who is studying here at Harvard, because it's great that we have all of these wonderful programs to offer you and a number of opportunities for you to take advantage of, but it's important also to know who else is here and who else is studying. So this year we welcomed 675 students from all over, so any of the continents highlighted in blue, we did receive students this year. So 6 of 7 continents, which we are very proud of. We also welcome students from 41 states as well as Washington, D.C. And here you'll see a number of statistics about our incoming students. So first you'll see that we're 19% international. So that represents a number of different countries, and as I mentioned earlier, we are very excited to have international voices on campus. We think it's really important to recruit as diverse a student population as possible because there are a lot of important things happening across the globe with regards to education, and so it's important that we have a number of experts on that here on campus. I also want to mention that you'll see here that it's 95% full-time, and so that refers to the master's programs. Our doctoral programs are 100% full-time, but it is important to note that 95% of our community is full-time at the master's level. Next, I'll just talk a bit about cohort and community. And so cohort is what we call your specific program group. So I am an alum of the higher education program, and so I was part of the higher education cohort. And so this is a really important piece because here at HGSE, we really believe in peer learning, so learning from the people that are in class with you. And that is just absolutely crucial in every class, but particularly with regards to the classes in your program. You will be able to learn so much from the rich and diverse different classmates that you'll have next to you. It's just one of the most important pieces of this experience. And I can truly say as an alum that that does not just apply to in the classroom, but it also translates outside of the classroom because people are very passionate. People have left their different countries and their families and maybe great jobs to come to this place and really ask the important questions and have important conversations. And so that does not stop when you leave the classroom. And that's something that's really important to highlight when we're talking about the community here. Something that's very important to people to talk about is life after HGSE, so life after graduation. And first I want to note, I mentioned earlier, we have our own career services office here at HGSE, which is specific to people here in the ed school. So those are really professionals who know quite a bit about the education professional field, not only domestically here in the US, but also internationally. And so here are some statistics about our career services office. So you'll see that we have 5,000 organizations which are registered with HGSE, which means they've posted jobs in the past. We have 300 job postings on our website monthly, that's per month. And so in the beginning of the year, those are generally internship opportunities. But towards the end of the year, those are full-time jobs that we are able to apply to. The 250 employers visiting HGSE refers to a couple of different events that we have here. So one is the Internship Expo. So if you are interested in pursuing an internship while you're here, we bring about 100 employers here to campus for a big fair where they talk about what kinds of internships they're offering and who might be a good candidate. The rest of the year, we do bring employers here to campus in order to recruit for various jobs. Next, it's worth mentioning that at HGSE, you will also be considered a member of the Greater Harvard University community. And so that means that you are able to take classes across any of the Harvard University schools. So if you have an elective and you're interested in a class at the Harvard Law School, the Business School, the Kennedy School, for instance, you would absolutely be able to take advantage of that. We also have a relationship with MIT, which is just down the road, as well as the Tufts Fletcher School for International Policy. And so if you're interested in pursuing any of those courses that they offer there, you can do that while you're here at HGSE. It's also important to mention that Harvard has access to over 80 libraries, as well as a number of museums, which is really great when you're a student here. Not only will you be a member of the Harvard community, but you would also be part of Cambridge and Boston. And this is just a really great area. There are so many colleges and universities here, so there are so many students who are always engaging with different, just fun activities. We have wonderful sports teams here. We have a lot of culture going on here. We have the Museum of Fine Arts, Museum of Science. There are just so many things that you can be a part of for your year or multiple years while here in Cambridge and Boston. And so now I'm going to move on to advice for applicants. And so I know that this is very important information and I might go quickly. So please, if you have any questions, just save it to the end, and I'm happy to answer any questions about application tips. So here we'll just start with the PhD funding. And so the Doctor of Education here, the PhD, is a fully funded degree. And so you'll see here how that it's broken down. That years 1 and 2, you would receive tuition and stipend. Years 3 and 4, you would receive tuition and complement that with research assistantships and teaching fellowships. In year 5, you would receive tuition again, and when you're completing your dissertation, it would be tuition and stipend. The EDLD, again, is a fully funded doctoral program, and if you're interested in knowing more about that, I'm happy to speak about that later. With regards to our master's programs, we have a number of opportunities. We're one of the only education schools that's able to offer both need-based as well as merit-based awards. And so I know that at Lemann Foundation, they will speak more about their specific fellowship, but there are a number of other ways to gain money as well and apply for work study or apply for other financial aid opportunities here at HGSE. Here you'll see a list of the deadlines for the financial aid. So we have 2 merit-based fellowships on our application, which is due January 5th. Apart from that, you would apply for financial aid in mid-February. And I did mention specifically the Lemann Fellowship, which will be due in April. For more information, we do have a full financial aid website that I encourage you to look at, that it does include information for international students. So that includes opportunities not only at HGSE, but at Harvard more generally, which is really important. The Financial Aid Office also just reminds you to think about financing your education, because this could be a very big investment in your time and also your finances. And so it's important that you look into what you want to do after HGSE and whether or not it makes sense for you to come to a school here. And also that if you do come here, that you're prepared to live like a student. and decide, what you need versus what you want. You might have to give up some luxuries while you're here in order to live like a graduate student. And here I have listed the admissions deadlines, and so something that is important to note is that the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences, it will be accepting the applications for the PhD program. So if you are interested in the PhD, you will not be applying to the Graduate School of Education. You will be applying to the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences. That is very important to note. And their deadline is Monday, December 1st at 5 p.m. That's a very strict deadline. Next, we have our two deadlines here at HGSE. You'll see for EDLD, the deadline is Monday, December 15th. And for the EDM, the deadline is Monday, January 5th. And both of those are due at 11:59. Notification, we will let all applicants know about their decisions by the end of March 2015. So here are all of the requirements for our online application. So I understand that to some of you, this list might look like this, with the standardized test being the only thing you see and the most important thing, but that is not true. In actuality, it looks more like this. And truly, I can say that the standardized tests are just one component of many. We really have a very holistic admissions process. And so if we do see low scores, we might just consider that a red flag where we look at the rest of your application for signs of academic ability. So we will look at your statement of purpose for writing ability. We will look at what your recommenders have to say about your academic ability, and we'll look to something like your transcript. We do not have a minimum GRE score, but we do have minimum TOEFL scores. So we do require that you have a 104 or above on the TOEFL with at least a score of 26 in each section. And this is a question we get a lot, which is who is required to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. And so if your native language is not English and you have not attended a bachelor's degree institution, which was English speaking, then you need to submit the TOEFL. So I'll say that again. So if your native language is English, you do not need to submit the TOEFL. If you attended a university where you got your bachelor's and the language of instruction was solely English, you also do not need to submit the TOEFL. But if your bachelor's was in another language and your native language is not English, we do need to see TOEFL or IELTS scores. I hope that is clear. We also do require the GRE of all applicants. I want to talk quickly about the statement of purpose, which is a really important piece of the application. So this is something that you should certainly start early. And it's something that if you are doing research on the school, you really want to let that show in your application. And the place to do that is the statement of purpose. So you don't want to just review your resume again because we will already have your resume. But you do want to speak about yourself and what makes you passionate and what makes you a great applicant and your experience in the field of education or your experience outside of the field of education and what makes you passionate. And then you want to talk about your goals. So where do you see yourself following this program? And how is this program going to help you? So all of those things we talked about, the faculty, the courses, the internships, you want to express what makes this program the best program for you. And you want to explain what resources you want to take advantage of while you're here. Next, we get a lot of questions about recommendations as well. And so generally we recommend that you submit one reference who is an academic reference, so maybe a professor or a former professor, and then someone who's able to speak to your professional abilities, so maybe a current supervisor or former supervisor. But those are really just general recommendations. Those are not requirements. The most important thing is that you choose people who know you well and who really know your work and who are able to speak to your strengths. And also my recommendation is to give them as much information as you feel comfortable sharing. So if you want to tell them a bit more about the program, or if you want to share your resume with your recommender, that's absolutely acceptable. The more information for them is only going to make writing their letter all the more helpful. Something else I want to note, recommendations, is that they do need to be translated. And so if you are asking a recommender who is not comfortable using English, then we would need to kind of coordinate with you so that you're using an official translation service. So sometimes prospective students ask if the applicant can translate their letters of recommendation, but that we do not permit that because we do not allow for the applicants to see the letters of recommendation before they are submitted. And so you would need to use an official translation service. So again, I mentioned that there are a number of ways to connect with us. We really want you to get all of your questions answered if you are still interested and if you plan to apply. And so we do have alumni and student ambassadors, and they are from all different regions and all different countries. And so if you are interested in connecting with an alum or a current student, you can find that on our website. You're also welcome to reach out to me anytime. My email is here, but it's also on our website. So if you're interested in hearing more or following the presentation, you have specific questions for me, please do not hesitate to reach out. I love doing that sort of thing. I love helping prospective students and figuring out whether or not this is the best place for them. So that's the end of my presentation, and I think that we will hear now from some fellows at the Lemann Foundation. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So
great. So let's switch to.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Laura, for your presentation. So I'd like. Yes? Okay, so I'd like to call Isabel. Sure. And this part is also going to be in Portuguese, okay?
Gente, vou ficar aqui para vocês me verem pouco melhor.
Para fazer eles estiverem aqui também.
O que é melhor?
Vai ficar amarelo, mas a gente consegue.
Mas eu vou estar de costas.
Nada que não vê lá.
Tá bom. Então, o que eu vou contar, na verdade, não é tão diferente do que eles já contaram, né? Acho que a Laura falou um monte, e a Laura também, mas eu vou tentar dar um tom um pouco mais pessoal, e aí acho que o mais interessante é vocês fazerem as perguntas que vocês tiverem de curiosidade. Eu trabalhava com educação já há algum tempo, mas eu nunca tinha estudado educação, ainda tinha trabalhado no Ministério da Educação, no governo, no privado, em vários lugares, e estava interessada em aprofundar o conhecimento na área da educação. E fui procurar os cursos, descobri que tinha essa bolsa da Fundação Lemann, que é específica para brasileiros, né? Então, eu acho que está numa instituição americana, e muito bom. E aí eu tinha dúvida também de qual curso que eu queria fazer. E lá tem, como ela mostrou, são muitas opções, né? Mas além de ser muitas opções, você não tem só... O curso, você não tem que fazer todas as matérias obrigatórias, você tem bastante flexibilidade. Mesmo que você escolha um curso de um lado, você pode fazer outras coisas também. E aí eu fui para a área o curso chama Technology, Innovation and Education, que pensa as questões das tecnologias na educação, né? Não é um curso de tecnologia, é um curso de educação, de aprendizagem, mas usando novas tecnologias ou desenvolvendo tecnologias para a educação. E aí foi isso, o processo de seleção, bem como ela falou mesmo, a impressão que eu escutei, né, a orientação que eu fiz mesmo, é que essa carta de intenções, que é o Statement of Purpose, na verdade é uma das coisas mais importantes assim, que eles veem, que é onde você se coloca, né, e diz aqui você veio, né, então, da onde você vem e onde você quer chegar. E eles têm mesmo esse foco na liderança muito forte lá. Então, você tem que mostrar, né, que você deseja fazer alguma coisa com aquilo. Eu acho que eles analisam muito mais a impressão que eu tenho, né? Enfim, a sua solidez acadêmica, no sentido de que você vai dar conta, porque tem muita escrita, né, tem muito texto, tem muita leitura, tem muitos trabalhos, etc. Mas não tem uma tese de mestrado, não é um mestrado acadêmico, nenhum deles. Acho que nenhum deles, se eu não me engano. Não tem que escrever uma dissertação. É um mestrado de 1 ano, eles chamam de professional degree, né? Então, que em cada matéria você tem um trabalho no final da matéria. Ou algumas têm prova, aquelas tem umas que são microeconomia para educação e tal, aí estatística, né? Aí é mais prova. As matérias que são mais de educação, humanas, etc., são trabalhos. Alguns são trabalhos em grupos. Então, é um ano de muito estudo, assim, mas não necessariamente ficar fazendo provas, né? É um tipo de estudo diferente. Então, No GRE também tem a parte quantitativa, mas não é tão forte, não é aquela que, né, porque é uma matemática que a gente viu na escola, então não é uma matemática difícil, mas é muito rápido, né? Você tem que estar ali, é treino mesmo, você tem que, né, retomar aquilo que você aprendeu na escola e treinar. Então, quem quiser fazer, eu acho que vale a pena praticar para ganhar agilidade. Mas não é o ponto principal. Eles falam que é muito mais importante de verem que você consegue se comunicar bem em inglês do que e ter algum raciocínio lógico do que você tirar altas notas em matemática, porque não é o foco da faculdade. Que mais? Sobre admissions, a carta de recomendação também, é isso que eles falaram, né? Vale a pena ter uma gente que te conhece, que de preferência tenha, né, alguma posição relevante na área de educação, seja acadêmica ou seja em organizações, porque, né, é lógico que você está tendo um respaldo de alguém que tem também uma história que pode falar de você. E chegando lá é incrível, assim, é uma experiência de outro mundo mesmo, porque são muitas possibilidades. Tem logo que você chega, tem os shopping days, que eles chamam. Então, são 2 dias que os professores apresentam o que são as aulas deles, né? Em mais ou menos meia hora, 1 hora, mais ou menos. E aí você vai lá anotando. Primeiro você tem que fazer a seleção de o que você vai assistir, porque são várias em paralelo. Eu acho que são mais de 100 aulas nos 2 semestres, né? Possibilidades de aulas. Só na escola de educação, mas você pode também fazer aulas, né, em outras escolas de Harvard e tal. Então, depois que eu terminei, é que eu entendi o que eu tinha que ter feito. Né? Aí, mais ou menos, você já conhece, né? Mas na hora que você está chegando, você fica um pouco perdido mesmo, porque são muitas opções, são muitas oportunidades. Assim. E além das aulas, que são incríveis e são maravilhosas, e a gente quer, né, você pode se inscrever em mais do que, acho que a quantidade acho que era 8, né, 4 por semestre, mas você pode se inscrever em mais, mas aí você tem que encarar, né? E, na verdade, a parte dos trabalhos, da leitura é bem pesada. E tem todo o entorno, né? Então, assim, quando você está lá, tem muitas palestras, tem pessoas, né? Os speakers, tanto, né? Eu estava, a presidente Dilma foi falar, né? Então, do Brasil, né? Vai pessoas importantes de lá, né? De outros lugares do mundo que a gente nem conhece, nunca ouviu falar. A escola de governo é um lugar interessante para a Marina Silva, que ó, todo mundo, nem faz tanto tempo. Enfim, então é bem bacana. Aí acho que também vale, vocês têm que, um pouco como ela falou, né, ver qual é o foco. Então eu vou mais para educação e empreendedorismo, educação e liderança, né? E eu acho que vale também procurar algumas coisas que são meio fora da caixa, né? Pô, nunca tinha pensado nisso, mas eu vou fazer porque pode ser, né, vai abrir minha cabeça, né? Neurociência é um tema que está tentando, tem uma área de pesquisa forte. Acho que é isso da escola de educação. Você também, né, uma coisa que na verdade me surpreendeu, eu achei que fosse mais internacional. Na verdade, ele não é tão internacional assim. Tem um programa que é o programa de International Educational Policy, que aí são mais pessoas de outros países, mas acho que como é uma escola de educação, né, na verdade as pessoas trabalham com a educação muito do país. Então assim, tem sim gente internacional e é bacana, mas a maioria são americanos, na maior parte dos cursos. Né? Mas, enfim, mas também é muito interessante, né, entender essa realidade. Outra coisa que também me surpreendeu é como a realidade dos Estados Unidos tem paralelos muito fortes da realidade brasileira, né? Lá os problemas, às vezes a dimensão não é tão grande, mas o problema é parecido. Aqui é mais profundo, mas o tipo de problema não muda muito. Então é muito interessante também entender esse contexto deles, eu achei. Então é uma coisa que me surpreendeu positivamente. Não por eles, porque acho que eles estão com muita dificuldade também lá, mas pelo quanto que a gente consegue olhar, né, e fazer em relação.
São 4 anos.
O PhD, eu acho que são 3, né?
Eles falaram 3 aqui, mas acho que tem aqui.
Mas aí até você pode um
pouco mais. É o profissional, né? Eu acho que o da Graduate School of Arts and Sciences chega até 5 anos, como é o padrão da...
eu acho que normalmente são 2 anos de aula, né? E aí depois você faz a tese, e aí pode ir 4, né? 5.
Varia bastante lá. Diferente daqui, você tem um padrão de 4 anos, lá você varia muito mais por causa do trabalho que você resolve realizar. Então, a média de lá chega a 5 anos, enquanto aqui é menos tempo.
E aí, voltando, enfim, não só voltando, né? Mesmo quando você chega lá, já tem os colegas que têm a bolsa da Fundação Lemann, que normalmente tem menos gente na escola de educação, mas tem mais gente na escola de governo. Então, você já se enturma com os brasileiros e tal. E aí, voltando, a gente fez o roadshow, a minha turma foi a primeira que teve o tal do show que a Laura falou um pouquinho. Então, levaram a gente para conhecer pessoas super proeminentes também, no Ministério da Educação, em Brasília, no Banco Central. Aqui a gente veio conversar com empresários da Natura, do Itaú, enfim, foi uma coisa bem interessante, né? Gente de política pública, né? De terceiro setor. Isso foi muito bacana, acho que foi até mais uma coisa de abrir a cabeça também, ver as tendências, ver o que estava rolando aqui. E eu acho que essa questão da rede dos bolsistas é muito forte, assim, porque são pessoas como a gente, né? Então, que tiveram essa experiência de partir para fora, né? Que viram uma outra coisa e que tem também essa vontade de interesse em causas sociais, né? Ou de educação, de política, de saúde. Então, são pessoas que também têm esses mesmos interesses que querem fazer, né? Que querem acontecer e que a gente consegue dialogar bastante, que acho que é uma coisa difícil também quando a gente volta, manter viva a chama, né? Porque aí cada um volta para o seu mundo e para o seu trabalho, né? Que a gente quer, porque eu acho que um mestrado, ele de fato é um mestrado mais, né? Ele tem uma carga acadêmica boa, mas ele é para ser aplicado, né? Então a gente quer voltar e quer aplicar, mas aí quando você chega no seu dia a dia, às vezes a coisa você sente um pouco só, né? Em tudo aquilo que você viveu. E aí a rede da Fundação Lemann é super bacana, e as meninas também, o pessoal está sempre próximo, e quando a gente pode, né, a gente sempre vem, participa das coisas, tem os eventos, os seminários, é muito bacana. Acho que é isso, não sei se...
Uma pergunta, tudo que você voltou, esse apoio para realizar a tua ideia, como é que foi?
Esse apoio? O apoio é mais no sentido dessa rede dos bolsistas, né? Então, assim, de você conversar, não é um apoio, pelo menos na minha época, né? Acho que cadê a Laura? Mudou, né? Acho que ela pode contar um pouquinho mais.
Então, hoje a gente tem um apoio mais recente, mais estruturado em relação à colocação profissional e, inclusive, apoio a projetos de Lemann Fellows, né? Então, quando tem alguma coisa que eles querem fazer juntos, criar, tem um que até sai na mídia, que chama Congresso Aberto, que é um site onde você consegue ver melhor como o seu candidato vota para você tomar uma decisão melhor. Isso, por exemplo, não tem a ver com educação, mas foi uma coisa que a gente apoiou porque era de um Lemann Fellow que queria fazer com outro. Então tem essas duas questões que são novas.
Coaching,
assim. Né? Teve também de um apoio para a realização de coaching, que é de apoio para você tomar decisões de carreira e tudo mais. E é claro, o principal é muito de estar dentro dessa rede, né? Como a Isabel falou, de você conseguir ter pessoas que pensam como você, mas que estão em áreas, às vezes, muito diferentes, mas com uma maneira de pensar e de querer transformar que é parecida. Então, muitas das coisas acontecem nessa conexão.
Orgânico, né?
E é o que a gente acredita, né? Que coloca muita gente de alto potencial no mesmo lugar e para se conhecer, para conversar, tem coisas que fora do seu controle que acontecem e que bom, né? Muito mais pode acontecer dali. Então, né?
E acho que a gente tem Lemann Fellows de várias áreas, né? Mas a gente que é da educação também se aproxima muito de coisas que vocês fazem, e, né, os eventos e as outras pessoas que circulam, né? Então acho que também tem esse lado da rede da fundação, né? Que vai além da rede de bolsas.
Você era a única brasileira na sua turma?
Eu não era a única, na minha turma, sim, não no meu ano, quer dizer, nessa turma especificamente desse mestrado. Eu era.
Mas havia brasileiros nas outros mestrados?
Havia mais 2 brasileiros.
Só.
Mas que não tinham bolsa. 2 brasileiros. Uma no mestrado de Education Policy, International Educational Policy, e a outra no Learning and Teaching. Então, não tem muitos brasileiros. Na escola de governo tem mais, né? Na Business School tem mais. A área de educação é menos.
Mais americanos mesmo, ou você percebeu alguma outra?
Muitos americanos, mas tem bastante asiáticos. Na minha turma tinha um chileno, na América Latina acho que tinha eu e um chileno. Mas tinha da Índia, tinha alguns da Ásia, tinha do Canadá, tinha de alguns países.
Então, você ter conseguido entrar, você reputa mais a qual dos itens, todos desse processo? Foi o seu foco? Foi suas recomendações passadas, a experiência de trabalho?
Eu acho que a experiência de trabalho, eu acho que Eu acho que a experiência de trabalho ajudou bastante, né? Eu tinha trabalhado no Ministério da Educação por um tempo, e depois eu estava no setor privado, também numa área de inovação, né, de novos produtos, então, e era justamente uma área, o curso que eu queria fazer era de desenvolvimento de produto, né? Então, eu acho que isso tem relação, e eu tinha... as cartas de recomendação, como eles falaram, eu não vi, né? Não sei se foram boas, mas eu imagino que devem ter sido, mas 2 eram de trabalho e uma era acadêmica. E do trabalho, era de uma pessoa que tinha trabalhado comigo no Ministério da Educação, e acadêmica, não, e a outra era uma pessoa que era professor de universidade, mas que tinha trabalhado comigo no desenvolvimento de um projeto, né? Então, também, eu acho que essa coisa você ter a parte acadêmica mais forte, junto com uma... eu acho que eles veem isso também, né? Já veio até aqui, né? Pode mais, né? Acho que tem um pouco.
Você era formado em quê?
Em sociologia.
Só tinha nível de graduação?
Eu tinha um outro mestrado. Eu já tinha outro mestrado também.
No Brasil?
Não, eu tinha estudado fora. Eu acho que essa também é uma questão de políticas públicas. Então, eu tinha o inglês, isso também é importante, né? Porque eu não fiz a prova de inglês, porque eu tinha feito também uma graduação fora, então eu tinha já essa parte acho que da língua mais fácil, né? Então, é difícil você se expressar também em outra língua. E eu acho que isso para eles também é uma coisa muito importante, porque, na verdade, né, você vai escrever muito, né? Você vai se expressar muito por trabalhos, né? Trabalhos em grupo. Então, eu acho que essa fluência é importante também.
Uma dúvida específica sobre o seu curso, porque eu tenho interesse especificamente em tecnologia de educação.
Que legal.
Eu já tenho um curso de especialização nesse tema, só que eu achei muito superficial. Eu fiz no Mackenzie 1 ano e meio, esse curso de especialização.
Não sabia que tinha.
Tem, só que na verdade ele não existe mais. Eles não tem gente interessada, então eles cancelaram, abriram turmas novas. Enfim. Nesse curso que você fez, a minha dúvida é, o que é mais recorrente? A teoria ou é a prática, ou vocês conseguem combinar os dois? Eu quero dizer assim, vocês vão em escola aplicar o projeto? E porque eu trabalho nessa área também, então eu sinto falta dos dois lados. Da parte de onde eu trabalho, da parte teórica, e desse curso que eu fiz, da teoria, de pensar o que é tecnologia de educação de fato.
Ele é um curso bem aplicado. Não necessariamente você vai à escola. Na verdade, porque o que acontece? Cada matéria tem um projeto. Então, você desenha, você diz o que é o seu projeto. Então, na verdade, acho que a pessoa tem que ir atrás, né? Então, se você quiser fazer o seu projeto numa escola, você pode.
Você consegue aplicar.
Mas não é um requisito, né? Um dos meus professores, ele é diretor de inovação na editora Scholastic. Então, ele desenvolvia um produto lá, de matemática, né? Um software educacional, e aí eu fiz um estágio com ele. Também você pode fazer um estágio no lugar de uma matéria. E aí, esse estágio, a gente testava jogos com crianças. Jogos que eles estavam desenvolvendo, jogos educativos, né? Então, aí não era uma escola, era um after school program, né? Então, a gente fez essa parceria com esse lugar que as crianças iam à tarde para fazer atividades, e aí a gente testava os produtos, né? E com ele também eu tive uma aula de desenvolvimento de software educacional. Então, assim, você pode...
desenvolvimento de software, mas não programação.
Não programação, não tinha nada de programação. É design. É design.
Legal.
É que eles chamam software development. Eles chamam development, mas é design.
Legal.
Se vocês quiserem fazer perguntas, não só para a Isabel, mas também para a Laura, e eu acho que tem, não sei se a gente tem alguma pergunta da internet. Laura, if you want to take any questions online, we're open for it now. We have some also from our own streaming, so we'll take all of them from all sources, okay?
Yep.
Okay. So, please. So, Laura, one person here asked if there is any program related to intercultural education.
Any problem related to what? I'm sorry, I'm just not having trouble hearing you.
Intercultural education. That was the question.
Oh, intercultural education?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we do, I think that would probably be the International Education Policy Program. And so that I think would be the closest to intercultural education that we have, and that's a comparative policy program. I think, Isabel, are you an alum of the IEP program?
I'm not. I'm from the TIE program. But
Okay, great. So
yeah.
I don't know what you just said. So I didn't know what you covered.
Sorry about that.
So we do have International Education Policy Program, which is probably the most similar to something intercultural. And so that's really comparing educational policy across the globe, which is very interesting. And within that, it's one of the programs that allows for a great deal of flexibility. So if you had something in particular that you wanted to study, whether it be a region or a particular cultural relationship, or maybe I can imagine you want to just look at elementary school and comparative policy, you would really be able to tailor your education to your particular interests within global comparative education.
Okay. Thank you.
Can you
Absolutely. So someone online has a question about translation services. Okay, I'm just reading the question. Okay, so this question is about translation of the documents directly, and this is a great question. I don't exactly know the answer, but I can get an answer if you were to email me. The question is whether or not you need to use an official translation service, or if your recommender can have someone, they have a friend who can translate for them. Because my guess is that if the friend is able to translate without the applicant, being involved at all, that would probably be okay. Mainly because we wouldn't know, right? So what we do on our end is send an email link to your recommender, so it's entirely electronic. They will receive a link and go to the page to submit a letter. And so as long as that letter has not been translated by you, the applicant, that should be acceptable, is my impression.
Laura,
someone else online has a, sure.
We have another question here, which is about the duration of the PhD programs. And you mentioned 2 different kinds of programs. So what's the average duration?
Sure. So we don't know exactly what the duration will be for the PhD in education, because this is the first year we've enrolled a PhD in education cohort. But previously we had the Doctor of Education, the EDD, and that traditionally lasted between 5 and 6 years. And so we anticipate the same thing for the PhD, between 5 to 6 years. That's our research-based doctorate. If you're interested in the Doctor of Education Leadership, that's a 3-year program.
Thank you. So you were about to take the question online.
Yes, we have a question online about the GRE and what you consider low scores. So our averages are posted online for all 3 sections, I believe. What I will say, and this is not meant to scare anyone, this is really just a personal tip. The section that we found as most correlated to success here is the analytical writing section. So that makes sense to me because this is a school that involves a lot of reading and a lot of writing. And so just as a general rule of thumb, I recommend that you try to obtain a 3.5, that's out of 6, 3.5 or higher on the analytical writing. So as I mentioned, that's not a cutoff, and we would not deny anyone based on a lower score on that section alone. But if you do fall below there, we will look really closely at what your recommenders say about your writing ability and at your statement of purpose. If you kind of pass that 3.5 hurdle, we won't be as concerned about your writing ability.
For someone who already has a master's here in Brazil locally, does that increase your chances of being admitted or not?
Could you hear that?
It's a great question.
Okay.
Yes, I heard the question. So if you have a master's previously, does it enhance or hurt your chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So the tricky thing about having a previous master's is you just it's not going to hurt your application at all if you can explain why you want another master's. So if it's in something totally unrelated, or for someone coming from Brazil, I can imagine that what you learned in Brazil and what you would learn here would be very different, or just different lenses at least. And so if you're able to really make that argument, we will see that you have a master's, and in your statement of purpose, you want to explain, I have this experience in this master's, but I think that the Harvard Graduate School of Education will give me, these different tools or these different skill sets and get me where I want to go.
So if halfway, you would recommend them to finish it?
I didn't hear that one. What was the question?
If someone is halfway through their master's right now, would you recommend them to finish it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question, actually, and that really depends on, it's a personal choice. So if you are finding that you are, unhappy with your master's program, or if it's not what you want to do, that's your choice to leave, but you also would want to explain in your application, because we'll see an incomplete master's. And so you would want to explain either in your statement of purpose or in one of the optional essays why you feel like that wasn't the best fit for you and why Harvard might be a better fit for you.
Okay. Thank you.
I think with both of those questions, a general rule is if there's something on your application that we might be questioning or something we might be confused about, just give us more information in your application. If you already have a master's, if you've left a master's, tell us why, or tell us why you're choosing Harvard now. I think overall, we won't know what you don't tell us, and so it's great to be able to kind of express that somewhere on your application.
Okay.
Laura, so you mentioned in your
And
presentation.
Isabel,
Yes, we have one more question from here.
Hi, Laura. You mentioned in your presentation that the master's in education could be used for someone interested in switching fields. So I wondered if somebody doesn't have academic or professional, elements in their profile that are directly preparing them for their new course of interest, how would you evaluate their preparation for and fit with that program?
That's a great question, and that's one we get all the time. And what I like to say is that there's no common denominator, there's no one thing that makes all of our students the same, except that they see education in their future. So it doesn't mean that you have education in your past, it doesn't mean that you necessarily have experience, but something has brought you to this field, whether it's personal reasons or professional reasons, and that's what we want to kind of feel out. So if you have personal reasons for seeking out education, or professional, or whatever it may be, you want to flesh that out in your statement of purpose, and also explain however the experience that you have, however that's going to translate to your work in education. So for instance, I have a graduate assistant this year who's in the higher education program, and she has just come from the business world. So she was a consultant. She's never worked in education before, but she really used her experience to say, I have a great business background, and I think there are a lot of skills I can use in higher education. And so that's kind of how she built her story. And that's what I would recommend to you too, is to really create a narrative which says, I may have been doing this before, but I know I'm going to be great in this master's program and in education because I gained all of those skills there.
So we have a question from there.
Yeah, that one's for Isabel, it looks like.
Em português ou inglês?
I think she's answering. Deborah Lourens.
Parece
Can you read it?
Yes, I'll speak in Portuguese for her. Débora, é sobre finding balance, né? Eu não me senti estressada estudando, eu gosto muito de estudar. Então, sinto mais estresse, às vezes, no trabalho do que estudando, mas cada um tem a sua, né, tem o seu jeito, enfim. Agora, e a sua relação com os estudos. Então, não é estressante no sentido de provas, né, porque são trabalhos que a gente faz. Eu acho que a gente tem uma pedagogia, né, de escola de educação. Então, O que eles pregam, eles fazem. Então, tem trabalhos em grupos, tem textos que você escreve. Isso não quer dizer que não seja difícil, mas para mim não foi estressante nesse sentido. Agora, é muito trabalho, sim, né? E aí, pelo menos no meu caso, o que eu vi e o que eu vivi é que é pouco tempo e a gente quer aprender muito, né? A gente está lá. Então, sempre a reading list, né? Que é a lista de leitura, sempre tem muito mais, que é semanal normalmente, sempre tem muito mais do que você consegue dar conta. Então, na verdade, você tem que filtrar um pouco. E aí você vai aprendendo também que não é para ler tudo do começo ao fim, né? Você tem que ler um pedaço. E tem muita coisa rolando que não são as aulas, não é a parte estritamente acadêmica. Então, você pode gastar o seu tempo inteiro nisso e acabar perdendo outras coisas que a escola oferece. Então, não é simples, mas basicamente o que a gente fazia era meio que respirar aquilo e estar sempre estudando, mas também estar sempre aproveitando os momentos de fazer outras coisas. E dava para, assim, não dava para, pelo menos no meu caso, né? Eu preferi priorizar o estudo, então não era grandes programas e baladas, mas dava para conhecer gente e curtir também as pessoas, e sair, e visitar as coisas, passar em Nova York. Enfim. Também deu para fazer isso.
Eu vou perguntar.
Lara?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any possibility of merging a master in education with a master on public policy?
So we don't have any joint degrees at the master's level with any of the Harvard schools. As I mentioned earlier, you are able to take electives at something like the Kennedy School if you were interested in doing that, but you wouldn't be able to do a joint master's. At the doctoral level, the Doctor of Education Leadership that I mentioned, that's a very interdisciplinary program in year 1. And so your courses are taught here at the education school and at the business school and the Kennedy School. So that's a more interdisciplinary year at the doctoral level.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a question online about licensure in the IEP program. So if the program does not offer licensure, we do not have a licensure option. The IEP program is one that does not offer licensure. And so what you'll find is that programs that do offer licensure are much more structured, and they usually require a practicum or a field experience while you're here is required. Something like IEP is really nice because while you don't get a license, you do receive a master's and you're able to really explore a variety of ideas and courses because you don't have the same kind of strict structure to your schedule. Are there any other questions on the ground or online?
Laura, another question here. So Ana Laura in her presentation mentioned that the Lemann Fellowship, the selection criteria is determined by the program. Can you give us any insight as to how Lemann Fellows are selected at the Grad School of Ed?
That's a great question, and I don't really know the answer because that is something that happens at the faculty level. I'm sorry, I know it's not very helpful. But I would say, in general, the thing that we're looking for is program fit. So that's true whether you're applying for a fellowship, applying for anything. That is the key thing that makes people stand out. So you could be, top of your class, #1 graduate, but if you are not a good fit for the program, it's not going to do a service to us, and it's not going to do a service to you to admit you. And I would imagine that the same is true for granting fellowship, right? So what I was mentioning in terms of doing your research and really identifying the resources that you want to take advantage of, that is what makes a phenomenal applicant. As I said, it's a really holistic process, but at the end of the day, we're really interested in finding students who we are excited about. You know, professors are excited to learn from you all and to have you in class and to hear what's going on, you know, wherever you're coming from. And also they're excited to have students who are aware of all of the resources and are really thrilled to take advantage of them, because you might only be here for 9 months. And I'm sure, as Isabel mentioned, there's just so much to take advantage of. And so it wouldn't do anyone any good to admit someone or give a fellowship to someone who isn't really excited about those opportunities.
We have one question also. Is someone who has a master's in international relations and is now working in international relations, and she wants to know about her chances in getting admitted. For a
someone who has a
PhD
master's in international relations?
in international relations and
Oh,
is
for a
working
PhD.
for a PhD, exactly, yeah.
For a PhD, yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on your kind of research question and whether or not you think you would be best supported in one of our programs. So with regards to PhD, it's a highly competitive program. And I think what's most important there is that you're able to find the resources, mainly through the faculty, that are going to be able to support you. So we don't pretend to be able to do everything. That's just not possible. But if there are faculty here who are working on similar interest areas, or they have similar research questions to you, then we might be able to support you, and then it would make you a good fit for this program. So that's the kind of thing you want to research beforehand and say, it doesn't have to be just one faculty member who has your exact research interest, but can you piece together from all of the different faculty involved to come up with a group of faculty advisors who might be able to help you during your time here. So it's not as much about whether or not your specific interest area is named within our concentrations. It's really about whether or not your interest area can be supported and whether the faculty here might be able to help you answer your research question. And so my recommendation to someone who, even coming from international relations, see who is working on international education here at the Ed School and at the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences.
How competitive is to get into the mind-brain masters in terms of how many people usually wants to get into, and there is a limited number of places?
Yeah, that's a great question too. And so with regards to our programs, we aren't able to give out admission statistics. But what I will say is that particularly at the master's level, we don't have a quota that we're looking to hit. We don't have a number that we're looking for. It varies every year based on how many people apply. And so we really are looking to admit all qualified and passionate applicants who we think are a good fit. We're not looking to keep our numbers low. We're looking really to have as many people here on campus who are excited about these opportunities as we possibly can. And so it's difficult because I can't give you numbers, but usually what I say is, if I could give you numbers, it would be very encouraging.
Thank you.
I have a question, Laura. Hi. So it's about how relevant it is to speak to faculty members before applying, because I know that's really relevant for PhD programs. But how relevant would it be in the case of the master's if you don't even have to write a thesis in the end? So I just wanted to understand how much would that be beneficial in terms of both understanding what the program will be about and, of course, in terms of getting admitted.
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So I'll speak to master's and then I'll speak to doctoral. So at the master's level, if you have a question for someone on the faculty and you think it might clarify something for you, maybe you've seen their research interest online or you've read a little bit about the program and you're confused, you absolutely can reach out, and that's something you would do independently of admissions. But it's not going to give you an advantage in any way. We don't keep track of that sort of thing. It's not as though it might kind of put you a step above the rest when it comes to the application process. It's more for your clarity. So it might make your statement of purpose more clear or make you more sure that this is a fit, which will be very helpful. but it wouldn't be an advantage necessarily in the application process. With regards to the doctoral program, it's kind of the same process, but this is more important because faculty really drive the doctoral program. And so if you are interested, you might have more specific questions about the research of the faculty, whether or not your research makes sense. And so you might want to reach out just a little more readily than you would at the master's level. For all programs, though, I will say that faculty's priority are the current students, and so I can't guarantee at all that you will receive a response from a faculty member. My recommendation is to email them and to CC to copy their faculty assistant, which might help. But in general, as a rule, it's not required that you get in touch with faculty members, and it really, or you want clarification around something. It's not something you should do just to do it.
How difficult, is there a problem to, if you have a wife and to get a visa for the wife being Brazilian?
That's a great question, and that's something you would certainly work with the Harvard International Office on. So I worked with the visa certification process this past year, and so I will say that whether you're here on an F1 visa or a J1 visa, there is the option for you to apply to also certify your spouse as well as your kids, so any dependents that you're bringing here. So that's a process you would go through with the international office, but it is entirely possible if you are coming with a spouse or children to certify them, and they would receive either F2 or J2 visas to be here.
Thank you.
Are we done? All right. I guess this is it, right?
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you all. To those of you who organized this, really, this was, I know, a lot of effort on your part, so thank you so much. I am so glad to have seen all of you virtually and to hear so many great questions. And you all have my email address, or you can find my email address. And I think we will be sending you an email too to thank you for coming. So please feel free to follow up with me if you are still interested in programs or if you have any questions. Like I said, we really hope to be a resource for you. So thank you all again for joining us, and I hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you so much, Laura. You've been amazing. Thank you for clarifying everything. And we'll definitely follow up. We have all the mailing lists from the people who are here. And thank you so much also for the people online. I'm sorry if our presentation didn't get through the way we wanted. We just realized you were just seeing the first slide. So sorry about that. We can certainly send you over all the details about the Lemann Fellowship Program. And obrigada a todos por terem vindo. Obrigada, Isabel. Muito obrigada. Sempre ótimo ter Lemann Fellows aqui contando um pouco da experiência, essa prática do que você viveu lá e do que você vive no programa. É muito importante para esclarecer tudo que não está no site. Então, muito obrigada. Boa noite.
Obrigado.